I was categorically told as a kid that I would get this treatment from my parents too if I became as good as Portia. I have a series of psychological issues with self-worth due to my childhood, and it has severely impacted the quality of my life. By the time I turned 13, I realized that I would never have a good and functional relationship with my family. I just accepted that as my reality and withdrew from the family. I kept mostly to myself, stayed in my room and spent my hours doodling. That was my only real hobby and nobody ever took it seriously. I was the extra member of the family, so to speak. Always an afterthought, always left alone, always looked at with either disgust or contempt because I was not good enough for my parents. I was called a scribbler, and my mother even tore one of my sketch pads because I was busy scribbling instead of working hard and being a source of pride for the family like my sister. I knew then that no matter what I did they wouldn't see me as who I was, only as a lesser version of Portia, and that no matter how hard I tried I could never match up to her and that I didn't want to either. So I just stopped interacting with them as much as I could. When I was 13, Portia left for college and she changed. She was no longer the good girl our parents had raised. She still did well, no doubt about that, but she never answered their calls, didn't want to come back home, and blew through money like crazy. All of this took a toll on my parents, I guess, and they felt alone and isolated. They had lived the 18 years of their lives as parents to just one kid, and suddenly that kid didn't want much to do with them. That was when their attention shifted to me. They tried to get closer to me and wanted to make a bond, but I didn't want anything to do with it. I had attuned myself to being alone, and all this attention just stressed me out. It had taken me a long time to learn to live by myself, and I was not going to change it because my parents wanted to play happy families. This made them mad and things got even worse for me. They were either yelling at me or taunting me all the time, and it became too much for me to handle. I somehow managed to make it past the next few years until I went to college. I have been very low contact with them ever since. I did a degree in animation, so I can say that all that doodling really paid off. I got a good job right out of college and I'm doing quite well for myself. This is unlike what anyone, especially my parents and sister, expected of me, so that makes me feel even more smug about the entire thing. They have tried to get in touch with me repeatedly in the last 2 to 3 years in the sense that they wanted to get closer to me and things like that, but I have always politely declined their efforts. I do not feel their need in my life anymore, and I am more than happy with the little family I have built for myself. I live with my fiancé Edward, 29 male, and our cute dog Emma. I have friends, social circle and a great life, and I don't want them intruding in it. A couple of years ago, before I got my job, Portia got married. Obviously I was not invited. This is also one of the reasons why I don't take their attempts to reconnect seriously. They did not care about me when I was just a student, and now that I am successful they're trying to make amends and be family. I can see through their sick disguise, and I'm not one to be fooled by it. I have a feeling they want to get back in touch only so that they can mooch off of me, since Portia doesn't work. She got pregnant right after college, had a shotgun wedding, and has never had a penny to her name since. The family had always thought that she would be the one bringing in the money since she was the brilliant one, and that would end up being a failure. Now that there's no prospect of her providing any money, they're trying to make amends so that I can be their cash cow. While my parents have been this way since I was born, my extended family is much better. My Aunt Rachel was kind of a mother figure to me growing up, and she has always called my parents out on their favoritism. Of course, these allegations were vehemently denied, but gradually the entire extended family got to know the real picture of everything. They have supported my decision to stay low contact, and nobody really pressured me to build bridges with my family until a couple of months ago, around 3 months ago, my mother had a very serious health scare. She was admitted to the hospital for weeks and the diagnosis was tricky. Her quality of life has since been severely impacted, and the doctors have said that it is going to take a long time for her to return to how she was before, if that ever happens. This, according to my aunt, was a wake-up call for my mother, and the entire time she was in the hospital she was sobbing for her baby, aka me. I wasn't told about her health issues immediately because we had been low to no contact for a few years now, but my aunt called me up a week after the incident to tell me that my mother was very sick and had a sort of realization that she had not treated me well, and ever since that day my mother has only been crying, wanting to get back in touch with me, saying that she knows she's going to die soon and doesn't want that to happen before I give her a chance to be a good mother again. I had been conflicted about this because I knew deep down that the only reason my mother wanted to make amends was that she did not want to shoulder all that guilt for treating her own child poorly. It was more about her guilt than it was about me. But I also knew that if I did not talk to her or at least get back in touch, I would end up regretting it. So after a lot of thought and a considerable amount of urging from both my aunt and my fiancé, I decided to give it a shot and get back in touch with her. It was emotional for us. There were a lot of tears and a lot of apologies from her side, and I just told her to let it slide and that I did not wish to talk about it or engage in it anymore. My father tried to be civil, and he is too proud of a man to admit where he went wrong, so he and I didn't exchange more than a few words. Portia was nowhere to be found during this little reunion of ours, and I found out later that it was at our mother's request. Mom had vehemently denied Portia's presence during our talk, and I hear that she was quite salty about it, but there was nothing she could do. So now comes the actual incident. I was insanely busy with all my wedding planning, and to be honest, I did not make much time for my mother after the initial few meetings. I could have, but I was too stressed with all the workload and needed my downtime as well.